because it's WrestleMania feet. Hey everybody, what's up? You know, I'm here to talk about something that takes place after WrestleMania. Now I know everybody's talking about WrestleMania, you know, blah blah blah. But I want to talk about something that, you know, occurs annually after WrestleMania, maybe a few weeks, maybe a month or so after. And that is the, as you can see up there, the WWE Draft. Now, I don't know if they're going to have it this year. Obviously they will, because, you know, they haven't said anything about unifying any championships. So apparently they're going to have the draft. Now, everybody wants to know exactly who's going to benefit from this draft. Because this is a question I know, even though people are talking about WrestleMania, people would like to know, apparently, who's going to benefit after the draft. Just my opinion. Well, this sort of coincides with WrestleMania, if you will. Because here's what I see happening. Now, as we all know, Cena and Miz are scheduled to fight for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. We know Edge and Del Rio, and now possibly Christian, if he gets inserted into it, are going to wrestle for the World Heavyweight Championship. Okay. Well, I have in front of me the rosters of both brands on my iPod. Now, the question is, who's going to benefit from this, and how does WrestleMania factor in? Well, WrestleMania, everybody's pretty much predicted that the WWE Championship is going to be won by John Cena, and that possibly the rematch, whether it takes place on Raw the following night or the following week or at Extreme Rules, is also going to be run by Cena. So the question is, how does this affect the money? How does this affect the draft? How does this affect the draft? Well, it's real simple. You see, you got The Miz, who right now is the WWE Champion. Now, everybody's predicting, unless WWE throws us the curveball, that Miz is going to lose to John Cena at WrestleMania. Now, like I said, the only way WWE can make Miz's loss, if it occurs, unless, like I said, he throws a curveball, make Miz's match and possible loss to Cena viable, if not, you know, not so like one-sided, is to make Miz look strong over the next 6 to 5 weeks. Make him look like a threat. Make him look like, you know, he's the kind of guy that can not only finally beat Cena at Mania, but also probably take Cena out. You know what I'm saying? Now, the question is, where does Miz fit in all this? Well, it's real simple. See, if Miz loses, and then loses his rematch, this is what I see happening. I see The Miz getting drafted to SmackDown. That's what I see. And here's why. Here's why. Because despite how you feel about The Miz, you know, in-ring, wrestling-wise, you may look at him like, say, oh, he's a weak champion, he's not believable. Wrestling-wise, yes. Heel and promo-wise, he is believable. He is strong as champion. Heel and promo-wise. So all that to WWE, in WWE's eyes, has paid off. So even though Miz would probably lose to Cena at Mania and probably lose the rematch, WWE's not going to just throw that all away and turn Miz back into a mid-carder. No. They're going to keep him in the main event spotlight, and they're going to draft him to SmackDown. Now what's going to happen there is Miz is going to win whatever championship is the top championship on SmackDown. In other words, Miz will end up being the man on SmackDown if he gets drafted there. But I feel he will. Because if Miz is going to be champion of Raw as WWE champion, then it only makes sense that if he goes to SmackDown and the world title's there, that Miz continues this year or picks himself back up and continues on during the summer, maybe the fall, and possibly ends this year as the world heavyweight champion. It makes sense, people. It makes sense to me. So I think Miz could be the first one to benefit out of this draft. I feel he'll be the first one that benefits from being drafted from Raw to SmackDown. Now, the question is, where does that leave Alex Riley? Well, Alex Riley, apparently it looks like is a package deal. So Riley may show up with him, but then again, I think Alex Riley's going to remain on Raw. And now you might say, well, that's not going to benefit Alex because he's going to get lost in the shuffle. Guess what? He's not going to get lost in the shuffle. Alex Riley, I believe, is going to up his game when Miz gets drafted to SmackDown. I just feel it. Now, he could also get drafted to SmackDown and Miz could stay on Raw, and still the same thing, he'll up his ante. Either way, Alex Riley, after this draft, either he stays on Raw and Miz goes to SmackDown, or Miz stays on Raw and he goes to SmackDown, Alex Riley's going to benefit, and he's going to be a main event player before this year's out because of it. Guaranteed. Now, who else could benefit out of this draft? Well, I've already said that I feel that Miz going to SmackDown is going to benefit him. Riley staying on Raw or going to SmackDown, with Miz staying on Raw. Well, you get the... Basically, like I said, Miz going to SmackDown, I believe, is going to benefit him. He'll be world champion. Riley going to SmackDown is going to benefit him, but he's not going to be champion. That's the only problem. So I think Miz going to SmackDown, Riley staying on Raw, is going to work things out for both of them. Another person I think is going to benefit from a draft is from going to Raw to SmackDown is going to be Sheamus. That's right. Since last year, everybody's been talking about Sheamus going to SmackDown. I believe Sheamus is going to get drafted this year. I believe it. Why? Because right now he seems to be lost in the shuffle. He seems to be lost in the shuffle. So the question is, how can he benefit from being on SmackDown? Well, it's real simple. Like I said with The Miz, Sheamus going to SmackDown, he can reinsert himself and can be the main event guy he was on Raw. And just like The Miz, I believe he can get a run before this year's out with the World Heavyweight Championship. I truly believe that. So I believe that the next person to go to SmackDown from Raw will be Sheamus, and like I said, along with The Miz, will be the kind to dominate and reinsert himself as the main eventer that everybody knows he can be. And I apologize for the bird in the background. He seems to always chirp when I do these videos. I don't know why. But anyway, that's who I believe, again, can benefit from that. Now, that's two heels. That's two heels. Now, who else can benefit from this? Well, from Raw, well, the other person I believe, and this is another heel that I believe can benefit from going from SmackDown, from Raw to SmackDown. I really believe he can benefit from this, and I'm looking through it right now. I believe the next heel that can benefit from this will be, oh man, it's kind of hard, but I believe the next heel that can benefit from this would be, well, I believe it's a surprise. It's going to be a surprise, but I believe Zack Ryder. Because right now Zack Ryder's lost in the shuffle on Raw. And I believe if Zack Ryder goes to SmackDown, SmackDown seems to be more open space. SmackDown seems to be more open for everybody to have an opportunity. So I believe Zack Ryder getting drafted to SmackDown from Raw is going to benefit him in the long run, and he's going to be able to have a decent run. He's going to have a decent run. Now, who else? Well, there is one draft pick that I think is going to really change the landscapes on both shows. Let me check my time. Okay, just checking. But I believe this draft pick is going to change the landscape on both shows. Here's who it is. Now, we have seen in the past that teams and groups, when they get drafted during the draft, are usually drafted together in a package deal. Well, That's what's going to probably happen this year. Unless some of these people get drafted during the supplemental draft, they're all going to be probably drafted as one group. And I'm talking about New Nexus. That's right, another group of heels, basically a heel faction. The heel faction right now on Raw. I believe New Nexus, CM Punk, David Otunga, Mason Ryan, Michael McGillicuddy, and if he comes back somehow and still part of the group, Husky Harris, I believe they're going to get drafted from Raw to SmackDown. That's what I believe. I believe they're going to get drafted from Raw to SmackDown, and they're going to make an impact on SmackDown. I truly believe it. And again, I apologize for the bird in the background. But I truly believe they're going to make an impact on SmackDown. I believe their draft pick as one group is going to really make that impact. Now, you might say, well, wait a minute, the core's on SmackDown. How's that going to work? Let me get into that. Let me finish. I believe the core, and the same night, is going to get drafted from SmackDown as a group to Raw. Now you might say, well, the core's already on Raw. Yeah, they're only there. Now listen, the reason the core's on Raw right now is because they got the tag team titles. So basically what that means is the entire group can be on Raw if they want to be on Raw, because Slater and Gabriel got the titles. If Slater and Gabriel didn't have the titles, they'd be on SmackDown. But you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. I believe in one night, both factions are going to switch brands. Slater, Gabriel, Jackson, and Barrett of the core are going to go back to Raw as the core, while CM Punk goes back to SmackDown along with David Otunga, McGillicuddy, Ryan, and possibly Harris as part of the New Nexus. That's what I believe is going to happen. That's going to be the shake-up landscape-wise for both shows. Now, babyface-wise, who do I believe babyface-wise can benefit from a draft? Well, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look babyface-wise who could benefit from the draft from Raw to SmackDown. Well, first of all, I believe Daniel Bryan, the United States Champion, can benefit from being drafted to Raw to SmackDown. Because again, just like I said about Zack Ryder, SmackDown's more open space, and Daniel Bryan can have a clear, almost clear shot at main eventing, being a main event player there, and being world champion. I believe that's a perfect spot for Daniel Bryan. The other babyface I believe is going to be the returning Evan Bourne. That's right, Evan Bourne has been on ECW, he's been on Raw, but he's never been on SmackDown yet, full time. So I believe Evan Bourne making his return, when he makes his return, is going to benefit from a possible push on, because they're already talking about a big push for him, so I'm thinking a big push is going to come in the form of being part of SmackDown. So Evan Bourne, I believe, going to SmackDown is going to help him out. The other babyface I see going, and a lot of people will like this, even though he's been on SmackDown already, John Morrison. I believe John Morrison going back to SmackDown this year, being drafted back to SmackDown this year, is going to benefit him, because now there's more open space and he can finally challenge decently for a world title. And I believe Morrison going to SmackDown, he's going to get that run finally. I know that's hard to believe, but I believe he's finally going to get that run. I think that's what they're waiting for. Now, babyface-wise otherwise, not much to choose from, but maybe Darren Young is going to benefit. We can see Darren Young getting drafted, possibly doing the supplemental draft. D.H. Smith, David Hart Smith, he's going to benefit. I guarantee it. He gets drafted either on draft night or during the supplemental draft, he's going to benefit. I've got that feeling. And he might have a run maybe if the Intercontinental title's still there, or if the U.S. title's there, he's going to have a run with the secondary title, and maybe once in a while have a shot at being in a world title match, maybe championship scramble, fatal four-way or something. And the last babyface I think could get a decent shot there, maybe a decent push and run towards the U.S. or Intercontinental title, depending on what secondary title's there, Yoshitatsu. That's right. So basically, Daniel Bryan, Evan Bourne, John Morrison, Darren Young, David Hart Smith and Yoshitatsu, I believe, are all going to benefit from being drafted from Raw to SmackDown. Now, you're probably wondering, let me take my time. Okay, I got about 8 minutes. You're probably wondering who would benefit from SmackDown to Raw. Well, that would be that would be a question. Who would benefit from going from SmackDown to Raw? Well, I think one of the obvious people going to be drafted from SmackDown to Raw is going to be the guy that's been appearing on Raw a lot lately, Alberto Del Rio. Usually when somebody, we've seen it with the Big Show, usually when somebody shows up a lot on Raw, that usually indicates that if something like the draft takes place, that person is going to get drafted to Raw. So I believe Alberto Del Rio, whether he's world champion or not, is going to be drafted to Raw, and he's going to contend and probably be champion of whatever championship is going to be the main title. Now, the other person I believe that's going to benefit from going to Raw will be Cody Rhodes, another heel. Cody Rhodes, you may say, may get lost in the shuffle. Well, you know what? If he's creating his new personality on him, then you know what? This new dark personality, he can benefit from a good, decent push on Raw. Another person, this is another heel, Drew McIntyre. I believe Drew McIntyre, despite what you may say, can get a decent run and decent push on Raw. Another person I think going to have a decent run on Raw, heel-wise, if you want to look at them, I believe, I'm trying to look here, trying to see who would be benefit heel-wise. SmackDown is more babyface heavy than heel. That's why I think they're going to benefit more of that. But another person I believe is going to benefit heel-wise is Tyler Rex. Tyler Rex right now is sort of like in between. You don't know if he's face or not. So heel-wise, I think Tyler Rex is going to benefit from it. Now, diva-wise, I believe we're going to get Beth Phoenix back on Raw. I believe we're going to get Michelle McCool on Raw. I believe we're going to get, those are the two divas I believe are going to go back to Raw. Going to go to Raw, Michelle McCool and Beth Phoenix. I believe the divas going from Raw to SmackDown, I believe, will be, what I see is Natalya, but, this is what I see. I see Melina going to SmackDown. I see Brie Bella, that's right, the Bella twins being separated. I see her going to SmackDown. I see, and I also see, believe it or not, I see Alicia Fox going to SmackDown. Those are the divas I believe are going to be drafted. But again, those are just my thoughts on who I think is going to benefit and who will be drafted from each show and how they're going to benefit from it. Now, babyface-wise, from SmackDown to Raw, you might say, well, who babyface-wise would go? Well, babyface-wise, I think we'll have Christian. Because if Del Rio's going to go there, you're going to want to continue the rivalry there. I believe possibly Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio, I believe, is going to go. And I'm going to have to go with The Undertaker and Rey Mysterio both going to Raw and possibly ending their careers on Raw. So, Undertaker and Rey Mysterio. So those are the baby faces that I just named off that I believe are going to be drafted to Raw from SmackDown. So those are my thoughts on this year's draft, if it takes place or not, which it probably will. Tell me what you guys think. Tell me if I'm correct in what I said. I'd like to hear your opinions. I know these are just my opinions, but tell me what you think. Respond to the video if you want, but tell me what you guys think. And that's all I'm going to say. I'll talk to y'all later.